Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I am Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. I'm excited to be here, and I'm so excited that you're here. Today, I'm going to talk about overwhelm. And there are different ways that people describe the overwhelm that comes with ADHD. Sometimes they call it paralysis, the inability to get moving, to do something, or get yourself to make a decision. Sometimes they call it frozen or an ADHD freeze, because it's like everything's gone still in your brain and you can't get it to work right. Another way to describe it is even just being stuck. I'm just kind of stuck. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's more of a mental stuck, but it turns into physical because you can't get yourself to do the physical thing that you want to do, to act on something. And it's related to focusing, but it's not actually not being able to focus. If you're thinking about focusing, let's say you want to read a book, and if you are sitting there with the book and you're reading it, and once you're reading it, if you're not digesting in your brain what's going on, then that's a lack of focus. Or if you keep thinking, I need to do this instead, or something, you get up, that's a distraction. That's a lack of focus. But the overwhelm is what prevents you from actually doing the thing in the first place. So let's say you wanted to read a book, but I don't know why that would overwhelm you, but I don't know, maybe it could overwhelm me. My tasks for overwhelm are usually things that take a lot of movement in the body. So it could be deciding what to do for exercise. If I go to a fitness class and have decided to go to that class and have chosen one, get in the car and go, then I don't have to make any decisions once I get there. I just walk in and I'm kind of swept away with what the instructors tell me to do. And that becomes my workout. But if I work out at home and I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, I look at my spin bike and I think, well, I could ride the bike, or I could go upstairs, I could lift weights, or I could do this. Or then I go up there and I have a lot of workouts to choose from if I want to do a video workout. And then I can't decide which DVD to choose or do a live stream one, or, whatever options you have. If you have a lot of choices and can't make the decision, that could be that paralysis, or sometimes they say paralysis by analysis, not deciding what to do, but spending more time researching something or deciding all the options. I guess that's researching too. But that can happen with shopping, whether it's in person or online. You start to go to a website or go in a store and decide, I'm going to get this, but then you can't decide which one to get. Or once you decide to get that, turns into, well, maybe I should get more. And I was just describing this to my daughter the other day, because we have a Hobby Lobby here, and this is the first time I've lived near one. And it is just barely September. Even in August, they had their Christmas stuff out, and I haven't been there. I was going to go buy some beads because I like to make bracelets, but I saw that they had Christmas decorations and fall decorations, and the Christmas decorations were 50% off. And I remembered last year about this time going in there to buy some beads to make bracelets, and they put the beads in the very back of the stores, and they put everything that they want you tempted by that maybe you're not coming in for at the front of the store. So I'm walking by the Christmas stuff and I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe I could get some new packaging, like some new boxes. Well, if I get this, I'll get that. And then it starts turning into bigger and bigger ideas. And maybe you should get some red ornaments to balance out the tree. And then I go on this hunt up and down the aisles at all the different kinds of ornaments. Well, should I get this size or this size? And I just get so overwhelmed. Part of that's because the brain's on overdrive, but it's also taking in all this stimulation. And then if you even weigh, do I have a place to put all this stuff or any of this stuff? Or do I have the money to buy all this right now? Why are they wanting me to buy this so early? And, it just keeps going on and keeps growing. And then instead of acting on it and actually purchasing something, I end up just walking away because I'm so overwhelmed with the choices. I do that when I see children's clothes. I have little grandchildren now, and if I buy something for one of them, I think, well, then I'll get this for this one and this one for this one. Not that I feel like everything has to be even, but I kind of feel like that. And I keep going and going. And then you go on, well, if I buy a top, should I buy some shorts? And it just becomes so overwhelming because my brain just takes off in all these directions and I can't make a decision. And so instead of doing any of it, I don't do any of it. Does that make sense? Did that make sense? Instead of doing any of it, I don't do any of it. I guess it does make sense. So, how does overwhelm show up in your life? I've seen it this week for me, just even getting on this podcast, because I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about. And it wasn't it wasn't overwhelming for me to come up and do this, but I couldn't decide if I wanted to spend that hour doing that or if I needed to get something else done. And when you work from home, if you do any kind of tasks at home, you probably have a variety of things that need to be done. And so being able to make that choice, not even getting to the point of sitting down, can I focus on this? But even just committing to doing it and acting, like taking your feet and just walking. Because sometimes you can commit to it, but then you get distracted again and think, well, actually, this just came up. You check an email first because you just need to see if this person wrote back. And then you see three other emails that make you go in that direction. And you think, maybe I should do that instead. And so there are a lot of opportunities we have to get paralyzed in our brains, get this mental paralysis. And it comes from having too many thoughts that don't go together. They're fighting, they're converging thoughts, they're all coming together, and then emotions that go with it because our thoughts produce emotions. And so, with a thought of, I should really just go in and clean the kitchen because I don't like seeing it that way, or whatever that thought may be. And with that comes kind of this either dread or just the feeling that you get seeing the kitchen messy. Maybe it doesn't bother you, but thinking about different things can bring all those emotions too. And so it can be a mental paralysis, it can be a task paralysis. We don't actually do the task because even if we wake up that morning and we think, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. But you sit there and you avoid it and you just think, I can't do that. And so you find other things to either just rest your brain with or do things that don't really matter. A lot of the scrolling that we do or opening up tabs on your computer. I'm laughing because right now it's not a record breaking amount. I would say I probably have maybe 12 if I counted, maybe 15 tabs open. The other day when I was thinking about doing this on overwhelm and just kind of like more ideas, and maybe I should work on this, maybe I should work on that, maybe I should look into this and that. I counted, I had something like 27 tabs open. They're so small that you can't even read the words. You're just looking at the icons. And then the idea of closing the tabs is overwhelming because I want to work on this. And what if I close it and then I don't find it anymore? And I tried something a few months ago. I thought it was brilliant. It really wasn't because I didn't realize that all these tabs are taking up space on your computer, the running space. And so then if I went to teach a live stream yoga class or something, it wasn't recording right because I didn't have as much space or something like that. It was going slower. So I realized it wasn't the best idea. But my idea was because on Google Chrome, if you use that as your browser, you can open up new windows. And I thought, oh, I'll have one window for just communicating, like for emails. And I have too many email addresses already. So I'd open up those, that would be one window that only had, 3 or 4 tabs or whatever it was. And then one for my podcast or one for yoga or one for paying bills or whatever. So I'd have these different windows. And then I thought, then you can shrink them down. And then you're not overwhelmed by so many tabs and you can just kind of see what you're doing. But then I realized that it really wasn't good to keep all that open at once. So yesterday I learned about bookmarks. And I didn't realize that, I mean, I knew you could make bookmarks on your computer and you can on your phone. I don't understand that quite as much. If you understand it, let me know. It's just not something I think, I don't know. I don't like looking at stuff on my phone as much unless I have to, because it just doesn't register in my brain as well. I need more space. I need more space for my brain to take it in. But with bookmarks, you can make folders. I didn't know that. I would just save bookmarks, and some of them would show up on the bar up at the top, and that would help me for those things. Like I have one for how there's a healthcare portal or something that your doctor's office might have, that where you can look up your doctor's appointment if you forget when it is, or write a message to your doctor or something like that. So I have Find My iPhone for sure, because I lose my iPhone at least once a day, and I can beep it from my computer or from my Apple Watch, but I usually just do it from my computer. Anyway, I learned that you can make folders, and then on your bar up on top. So right now I have, one for yoga, one for ADHD info, one for podcast stuff, one for Pinterest. So I have folders, and then I click on the folder and it shows me all my bookmarks, which are basically the website pages that I want to be able to get into easily. I'm thinking maybe I'll make a little document, like a PDF file that you could access from my website, that can show you some of these tips, because they may be things you already know how to do, but just even knowing how to make stacks on your screen, I guess that's just what it's called, your desktop screen. I don't know if all computers do this, but Apple does, where if you have a million photos or screenshots or documents or all kinds of files that just keep cluttering your desktop. I do have folders, but somehow they still just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And I learned about stacks, and you just do Control Command 0, and it puts them in stacks according to what kind of file they are, like screenshots, documents, PDF documents, music, other images. And it's amazing. It's like if you were doing paperwork, taxes, or whatever makes a lot of paper in your house. And if you're like me, it replicates my brain. And all of a sudden I have papers in all kinds of places. They're kind of fanning out, but not in a beautiful way. And they're just everywhere. And if I just push 3 little buttons on my computer and someone put all those papers into their perfect little piles, that would be magical. And that's what happens on my desktop, because even though I clean it off every once in a while, it's just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's pretty much an indication of what our brains do. If we look at our computers, where our brains go, of what we think, I need to save this, I need to look into this, I need to do that. And all of that can lead to distractions, overwhelm of getting anything done, because we keep thinking all over the place. It can make it so you're not very productive. It can make it so you don't feel very good about yourself, because you're not moving forward. And that's a struggle. We want to be able to progress in life. We want to be able to move forward. And there are ways to help with that, but just knowing that it can happen, knowing why that it happens, knowing that it's partly because of how your brain functions is really helpful, so that you're not feeling like there's something wrong with you, that if you just pushed harder, you could do it just fine. And I really like this idea about our minds being like a river. I've read a few things actually recently, one from another yoga teacher talking about the thoughts in our minds and things like that. And I thought it was pretty amazing. This one is about ADHD paralysis. And the idea is that if our minds are like rivers, and they're not really like a river completely, but just this little parallel, that we can put our foot in the river, like we can step into the river, but we can't change the direction of the river. The river's already flowing in whatever direction it's going to be. And that could change from day to day, depending on storms or who knows what. I'm not a biologist, but I do know that they change. If you just go to a river, you can see that different times of the year or from year to year as storms change the landscape and so forth. But if you have ADHD, you know that sometimes you can be swept away by this current. And if you step in a river, you might have your footing at the edge of the river. Maybe you're not very deep in. But I was always told when I went camping or went to a river's edge that if the river is, if you step in higher than the knees, you can easily be taken away. If it's at the calf area, the ankle area, you have more strength and more ability to not be swept away. And it never really looks like that's true when you're stepping in it at calf height, but in rivers that aren't like super scary, I've kind of tested it a little bit, and it's true. It's true. It changes your ability to balance, to be able to stay there. And if you think of our brains, that we might think, okay, I'm going to channel my brain to do this, and this current comes, and we may not be able to stay going the way that we wanted to go. This current could take us another direction or make it so we can't direct ourselves the way that we want to. We're not able to, like if you're thinking of swimming, even with swimming, you might want to go from one side of the river to the other side of the river. And the current is taking you down the river. It doesn't want you to go to the other side. And if it's a tough current, you're trying to swim, you have to swim harder or try to work harder and go back because it's already taking you. And that's how it feels sometimes when you have this ADHD paralysis. Is it's not that you're trying to go somewhere else, you're trying not to do anything. You really want to do it, but this current in the brain, whether it's a current or not, but the way that our brains work often get in the way and make it so that we're not going directly to where we thought we wanted to go or where we decided to go. We finally made a decision. And even with decision making, you can just look at your own brain and think of how it has this current because it's just thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. And you're looking at a menu and you're deciding what to order and you think, well, if I get this, but if I got that and if that's one of your things that you struggle with in deciding what to spend your money on, what you're going to eat, what you're going to cook for dinner, what you need to work on first when you wake up, in your day, what are you going to work on first? You might have that idea, but then you wake up and your brain just says, but what about this? What about that? I should do this. I should do that. And then where we get frozen or where we feel stuck, where we feel paralyzed, is because we actually get exhausted. The brain gets exhausted. And it's definitely a sense of overwhelm. It's cognitive overwhelm. It thinks and it thinks and it thinks and it thinks all the thoughts, and it just kind of bounces around. And the more that you think about it, the more choices you have to choose from. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Is this the right thing to do? Is it not? And then you just don't do any of it. Or if it gets too big, like with spending money, if I keep letting it grow of what do I want to buy in August for Christmas? And I can't think that far ahead. But then I see beautiful, sparkly, shiny things in the store and think, oh, yeah, I want to get that. I want to get that. But then you can't make these financial decisions, whether it's a financial issue or storage issue, where I'm going to put it. It just invites new thoughts and planning and decision making. And that's where you just kind of throw your arms up in the air, whether you really do it or not, and just go, I can't do this. I'm not doing this. And recently I found myself even just in a regular store, like a store like TJ Maxx or something, where I'll walk around and I walk around for about 20, 30 minutes and just think, I don't think I'm going to buy anything today. There's a time that I would never do that because I think that's a waste of time. You spent a half hour in there and you didn't buy anything. That was my analysis of it. Now I think if you really can't decide, then just go home. Just go home. Come back another day, or not. Whatever. But yeah. So, what things overwhelm you? Is it the thoughts? Is it the decision making? Is it the to-do list? A lot of people do really well with to-do lists. What if you can't prioritize? What if you think, yeah, that's a good idea, I should do that, and then later you just can't get yourself to get up and do it because so many other things are kind of tugging at you. Those are the things that need to be done. Or somebody texts you and asks you to do something for them, and that takes your time away. And then you think, well, I really don't have time for this today. But there are a lot of areas of overwhelm that we can get with our brain. Decision making is a big one. Actually acting on something because other things are shouting at you saying, choose me first, choose me. You've made your decision, but the current isn't taking you there. The current is going a different direction. Or clutter overwhelm. Yeah, that's a big one for me. Not everybody deals with that, but if it's hard for you to function because you're overwhelmed with all that you see, the clutter of your environment can clutter your brain. Or emotional overwhelm, just having feelings. Maybe you're going through something, whether it's a really hard, sad, difficult, negative kind of experience, or sometimes even really positive experiences, really highs that take a lot of planning to plan a wedding or this or that. That can even be overwhelming. All the emotions that go into that, whether you're on your way up or on your way back down, your brain may not be able to handle all that and still be productive. And then there's also too much stimulation. Do you have that? I pick and choose with that. I don't know. It's not me, it's my brain that's doing that. But in some ways, I can be in really noisy environments and it doesn't bother me at all. Other sounds do. And I think it kind of depends on what I'm trying to do. I love to visit with people. I love to talk to people. If I'm trying to talk to people and there are sounds that I can't separate, I think that's where I get that stimulation overwhelm. Music in the background does that. Restaurants, when it's really noisy, when they play a lot of music, that's hard for me. But I can shop when there's music, you know. Oh, maybe that's because I'm not trying to talk to anybody. But I like to visit. And in the car, I like to listen to music or talk to people, but not both at the same time. I have to turn the music down. It has to be very low background because it just is too much stimulation and I can't think clearly enough or relax enough to be able to do that. And there's also physical stimulation that's not clutter, just whether it's lights or just seeing a lot of things, sometimes simplifying your environment. I've also noticed lately, and it's funny to tune into these things and realize them about yourself because you think, gosh, am I really that high maintenance or that picky or whatever? Maybe it's not high maintenance, but I like exercising better in a room that has a higher ceiling. And I've realized that when I work out at home, I like to have more space up above. And that's kind of lame, but I really do feel that. Like I can relax and do it more when I feel more open with my space, with my arms, instead of am I going to jump and my hand's going to hit the fan or something up above? I don't know. Maybe it's just a kind of a mental awareness. And even doing yoga, I've noticed some places I really like being in the environment, and other ones it feels like a cave, or I don't know, or they've got fans on, and I just can't stand doing yoga with fans on. It's just, I can hear fans other times, but not then. So, do you notice different environments that bother you and other people are fine with it? Yeah, I definitely do. So, why are brains more prone to having this overwhelm? And obviously, ADHD isn't the only condition that has a sensitivity to environments or sound. We know that autism does. Children, adults with autism, there are probably other people who don't have an is it typical brain, I think? Yeah, there's the neurodivergent. I don't know. Yeah, my brain's not functioning well enough to know that. but there are other people besides people with ADHD who can get overwhelmed easily. And you see it in children at school sometimes, and I don't know if they are on the autistic spectrum or ADHD or something where they physically shut down and go into a ball on the floor or get under a desk or something. And for me, I've had times out in public where maybe a microphone's not working well in the room that we're in and it's making some sound or they have it up too loud or something where I think someone needs to take care of that. Someone needs to, and I'm a doer. So if I wasn't in a room with, hundreds of people, I might stand up and say, hey, can someone fix that microphone? But I can't do that. So I kind of look around like, is anybody noticing this? Is anybody noticing this? And when they aren't, or it's not changing, I have to physically get up and move. There are times that I've had to do that. And I think it's almost like you feel like you're screaming inside. So you can see why children might come down, they don't feel that maybe social pressure of I shouldn't get down in a ball right here and plug my ears, but maybe that's all they can do. And it's actually fine that they do that. But, adults probably wouldn't do that as much if they could leave the room. But what some experts are saying is that ADHD brains don't filter information, stimulation, and other incoming data. We aren't able to dispose of the things that aren't important and only deal with the key information, the key details. And like I was saying earlier, the desktop, that's an indication of not being able to just throw those things away as they come in, like, well, why am I keeping all this stuff? Or why am I so curious about it? Why do I keep finding more information I want to hold on to or pass on or whatever it is? And so I'm not able to say some of these things aren't important. You don't need to hold on to them. You don't need to even spend time with them. Those of us with ADHD are often very curious. And so we do bring in a lot of information that maybe some people find unimportant and we don't. Or maybe we go into a big store and they're giving us way too many options. And we're not able to put on the blinders and say, I don't need that. I don't need that. We're more like, oh, that looks nice. Oh, that looks nice. And then picturing and, how it would be if I had this and that creative brain that just keeps imagining this or that and how that could all fit into our lives. And so we deal with more. We're inviting more in or we're creating more by having our own thoughts that just keep popping up, that just keep coming up with great, wonderful things to think about, jumping around from here to there. So what can we do? Is there hope? I think there's hope. Know that it can happen sometimes. It doesn't have to happen all the time. And you probably realize that. Sometimes you can be productive and other times you feel this shutting down, this, like your feet are stuck in cement and you can't get yourself to walk and do something that you want to do. And there are some things that you can do. Just notice when it's starting to happen, or notice when you're starting to spiral into far more ideas than you can make a decision with. If you were talking to a child, you'd probably keep it really simple. You'd probably say, do you want to brush your teeth with this toothpaste or that toothpaste, even if you gave them a choice? You wouldn't give very many choices because you'd probably get this look of, I don't know, unless, one of them was like really exciting, the other one wasn't. But if you give too many choices, it's harder for people to decide. And if you just have a few, that makes it a little easier. That might be nice for some situations where we can control those choices. But if you really do need to simplify, like you're in your house, maybe you choose to work on what you really want to get done in a place where you don't see the other things. You shut the door. This helps me when I'm cleaning out a closet or something. I know that if I leave that area to go put something away, I may not come back for hours. I may not work on it again until the next day or whatever. I could go in the kitchen, think, maybe I should get something to eat, or I should actually get these dishes done, or I should sit down at the computer or whatever. So whatever I can do to keep myself in the place where I need to get the work done, and maybe that's have a few bags by the door that one, take to the kitchen, one throw away or whatever, that I don't actually go outside the door. You set yourself up so that you're not seeing other options if you can help it. Minimizing distractions. We talked about that before, or I talked about that before, but I feel like we talked about it together. And I have done this focus challenge with some people. So we've talked about these things. If you want to join that, it's free. It's a 5-day focus challenge. And I'm happy to have you be a part of that because I'll be in touch with you. But anyway, just noticing what could possibly get you overwhelmed. If you can notice any symptoms in yourself, does it feel like you're getting a brain fog? Some people talk about, my thinking's getting foggy. Or if you feel like you're getting, your thoughts are getting too full of ideas and you start to realize that you're just kind of bouncing around too many ideas. And when you start to notice that happening, you start to pay attention to your physical being. Are you feeling more tense in your shoulders? Are you feeling a headache? Do you feel like I said, like my head's going to explode? Like you need to go screaming from the room? That's what I feel like. That's just the only way I know how to describe it is my head's going to explode. I need to leave. I need to get up. I need to walk around. I need to do something else. I need to get some food, something besides just sitting here and dealing with it. Or sometimes you just feel like jumping in bed. I got to just go lie back down. I'm tired now. Or go for a walk, get some fresh air. So think back to when you felt overwhelmed recently. There could be different reasons that happened, but what were the feelings in your body? What did you notice? Those can be your red flags for next time. If you start to notice that happening, then you know what to identify as it's going on and maybe not get taken away so much by that current. And the more that you're aware of these symptoms and how it affects you, maybe you can cut off that overwhelm and not let it take you so far. And maybe it won't be so all-consuming, affect your day quite as much. And then when you notice those signs, step away from the situation, give yourself a little pass from being there, whether it's out in public or whatever you're telling yourself to do at home, and give yourself a little bit of a break. And that might feel like, but then I'm not getting anything done. I'm taking a break. But when you're sitting there going into the spiral of overwhelm, you're also not, getting anything done. So you might as well give yourself a little break, give yourself a little reset, and then figure out, what was overwhelming you? What was causing that to happen? Am I deciding between too many things? Do I have feelings coming in with it? Is it someone else that's pressuring me or distracting me and I can't decide what to do? Sitting back and kind of looking at something like you're not in it can help sometimes in making it a little more simple. And once you're recognizing, am I getting the sense of ADHD paralysis? Am I on my way there? Am I shutting down? And recognizing, is it too much information, whether it's coming from me or from other sources? Is it too many emotions? Is it my environment? Find a way to separate that, simplify it, change your environment, process the emotions, whatever it needs, whatever it needs, whatever you need to do, whatever your needs are. Then once you can kind of identify it, maybe you can find a way to simplify it. Okay, I'm only going to do this. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to give myself a pass on everything else. I'm not going to invite in any more choices. And also recognize if it's your own negative self-talk that's causing you to not think you can do something. Sometimes it's not a multitude of ideas. It's your own thoughts that say, well, you're not going to be able to do that because of this. You're not going to be able to do this because of that. You're not going to be able to accomplish that. And whenever you have those negative things, it might be true that you might not be able to complete it the perfect way that you need to, or maybe you need to cook something and you're making it into something bigger than it needs to be, or you need to exercise and you think it has to achieve this great goal today, or it's not worth the time. Sometimes you take all those ideas, all those parameters that you're putting on it, or all those opinions that's telling you, don't even start it because it's not going to be good, or it won't be worth it, or it won't work out well. And tell yourself just to let go. Tell yourself to just keep your mouth shut on all those negative ideas. And just let me try. Let me go for it and see how it is. Because I do that with organizing sometimes. I think if I can't organize it in this perfect way that I want to, I'd rather just not do it. And so still I have a big bag of ribbons and and paper and things from Christmas that I should just take the whole thing and throw it in the trash. But I want to go through it and organize it. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't need it. And what is it? It's September. And I see it most of the time when I open that closet because I haven't dealt with it. Because when I deal with it, I want to be able to make the decisions of, do I keep this kind of ribbon or do I don't? And the truth is, I have more of that ribbon in other places. I don't need it. But we have these standards sometimes for ourselves of how something needs to be done. And then we don't do it at all because it hasn't met our own standard. When we should just really just let go of that standard or that emotion that goes with it, or that feeling of overwhelm, sometimes just having to make a tough choice, like getting rid of clutter, although we might not call it clutter, but having something in our life that we hold on to for a really long time. Sometimes there are things of value that we do that with that are really wonderful things to hold on to. And there are other things do you have things that you've held on to? You may be better at this than I am, but that you look at it and think, I really don't want that anymore. Why do I hold on to it? But the decisions that come with getting rid of it or making peace in your mind is what's stopping you. And one of my favorite visuals, actually, and I was there for it, but one of my friends was moving across the country from California to Pennsylvania, and she collected dollhouses. I don't know if I've shared this before. Sometimes I wonder, have I shared this before? But maybe you haven't listened to all the episodes. I don't think I have, but if I have, my apologies. Maybe it's good to hear it again. If so, that's my disclaimer for any story I tell. But my friend Laura had some dollhouses, and she decided that she would keep some of them because, these aren't tiny dollhouses. These are full-size dollhouses that she would find at a garage sale or find somewhere and decide to do a home remodel. Or she actually had my old dollhouse and she was going to make it look like a firehouse because it was tall and slim, which I thought was cool. But she had this one dollhouse that she didn't want to take with her to Pennsylvania. She had 3 children at the time. She didn't need it. She didn't want to work on it, but she was having a hard time deciding what to do. So as we were helping them move things to the moving truck, she sees this dollhouse, and she's had this battle in her mind all this time. Something's nagging at her to tell her, you don't need this. You don't want it. Get rid of it. Something else was in her mind saying, you can't get rid of it. You can't make that decision right now. Save it for later. You can decide later. And at least that's what mine is. Mine isn't when it's a battle in my mind, it's not of course you need this. It's more, just put it away till later. But here she was going to go across the country. So while we're helping her out in her driveway, she takes this dollhouse and she just kind of says no in her brain. She just kind of says that loud no to all of us. I'm not going to keep this. I'm not going to take this with me. I don't need it anymore. So she doesn't just take it and throw it in the wood pile or the recycling or whatever it was that she had a place for it. She takes it and she starts stomping on it. She starts kind of demolishing it, like when they do those shows where they take out a wall. She just starts in all of her emotion, and she's stomping on this dollhouse, and we're just seeing it, smushed to smithereens. And I thought that's what it feels like for us when we have these battling emotions and thoughts. We just want to get rid of them. So by getting rid of that dollhouse, she got rid of that decision. She never had to think about it again. She got rid of that overwhelm. And sometimes you might have to do that. Maybe it's not a physical manifestation, but maybe you just write down, or maybe you go outside and you just kind of yell, or maybe you go do some kickboxing. I like kickboxing. You just get out these emotions and you just say, does this even matter? Am I just overwhelming myself? What is it? And do what you can to get rid of that frustration, whatever it is that's making you just not function anymore. I hope that talking about overwhelm hasn't been overwhelming for you. Sometimes I know for me, reliving something can bring it up again, in your bodies, in your hearts. I mean, that's why when we talk about something sad, sometimes we think, oh, I didn't mean to cry, and here I am crying, because we are reliving that in our bodies. But just recognizing that this happens to us, it has happened probably. I would imagine most of you have experienced this. And it will happen again, but it's really wonderful to recognize what leads to it, maybe simplifying your day, your expectation, your needs of what needs to be done, recognizing when it's you that's putting the pressure on, your standards that are causing it, and seeing if you can give yourself a little more slack, maybe finding chunks of time to do something instead of trying to feel like it has to be done really fast, putting the idea that it has to be done perfectly aside, even if that's coming from somebody else. Sometimes that's the pressure, is it's not you that wants it to be perfect. It could be somebody else, and that's not real life. I'll make an episode another day about needing to be perfect or do things perfectly, whether it's coming from us or someone else, because there's a lot of pressure to be that way, internal, external, and it's not realistic. I hope that this is helpful to you in some way. And I'd love to hear other areas of ADHD that you struggle with. I love diving into it and understanding it. And I'd be happy to talk about any areas that are particularly difficult for you with your ADHD. So let me know. I'm getting my social media act together a little better. I created a Facebook group, Instagram for inspiring women with ADHD. Done very, very little with it. Well, if you go on to either one, it looks like I've done very, very little with them because there's no actual posts. But I want that to be a way that you could be in touch with me. If you'd like, you could send me a DM. It's Inspiring Women with ADHD. I will start posting my podcast episodes and other information there, maybe some fun things that we can laugh together about with ADHD. My daughter's going to help me with TikTok. It's just a foreign land. I watch things on it when my daughters send it to me, but I still haven't quite figured it out. I've never made a TikTok, but I may. She may be my helper. But the Facebook group is a place that we can go and talk about things, especially if you're doing the 5-day challenge or any other courses. I'm going to create some other courses, and it's a place to talk about progress. But even if you want to just let me know how you're doing working on things on your own or funny moments, because there are so many funny moments. I'll save that for tomorrow. Oh my goodness. I was thinking of having an ADHD moment section at the beginning of each podcast, and I forgot today, because that's what we do when we have ADHD. We don't keep everything in our brains, and we don't always organize things the same way that other people do so that we don't forget, but that's okay. That is okay. But thanks so much for being here. Look for me on Instagram, Inspiring Women with ADHD. You're welcome to go to my website, sign up for the free 5-day mini course. I'll put that on my Instagram as well. Or find me. It might be hard to find the group in Facebook. It's private, but that's just so nobody sees what you post, but you should be able to get in. And that's part of what's gotten me overwhelmed this week is I want to connect everything. I want to connect information that I put out there, whether it's Pinterest posts that lead to my website. I want to have more blog articles. I'm learning that blogging isn't the same as it was when I blogged about 15 years ago, so I need to do it a little differently. But I want to provide as much information as I can and support and just feelings of being valued and validated, that you can understand more about yourself and think, yes, I feel validated. I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I just do things and think a little differently than others do. Oh my gosh, I can never stop thinking that's what it's like for us, huh? But I had this thought the other day because we hear people say, you are enough, or we might even tell somebody else if they're feeling down about themselves, you are enough. And that's a message that we understand. You are not lacking. You are enough in this world. I had this thought because often with ADHD, we feel like we're being too much. We're too talkative. We're too energetic we are, too whatever, we're too this or that. If that's something you struggle with the sharing, the talking, the hyperactiveness, the wanting to be understood to a deeper level than maybe somebody else, or connecting or whatever, like we're too much. Sometimes people kind of feel that like it's a little too much. Okay, tone it down, tone it down. I want you to know that you're not too much either. The real you is not too much. And maybe for some people that's overwhelming, and maybe we do learn to make adjustments to help them feel more comfortable around us. But you are not too much. You are enough, and you are not too much. That is my thought that I want to make sure you know, because you are you, and that is fabulous. That is the best. I don't want you to ever feel like you aren't amazing with the real you, that you feel inside that you need to be. I want you to know that you're amazing. So, yeah, this made this my longest episode. So, thanks for being here today. That's what I get for only making one this week, huh? I will be back. Bye.
Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.